We are live now. We're
Truly,
live on
truly.
Facebook currently. So let me just get into our team and make sure that everybody starts joining in.
Okay.
So I think we'll just wait for a couple of minutes for some of our followers to join in and then we'll get started. Fumi, I don't know if Imade told you this is like this is our debut tech table talk.
Wow.
So we're
Good
really
job.
new at this.
You know what? It's such a great honor to be the first person to speak on the platform. So I do not take it for granted at all. So thank you so much. Thank you. And you women are
Thank
doing
you.
fantastic work. You're doing so well, Esohif. You're doing really good.
Thank
So
you so much.
Ajimage,
Thank
you
you
guys
so
are doing
much.
so much. Yeah.
Thank you
So it's
so
a great
much.
privilege for me to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So we're just going to like wait for a couple of minutes, maybe till 6:10. Let's see who and who would join and then we can get started.
Okay.
So we have a couple of people who have joined and yeah, but I think we'll still wait till 6:10. Hi, Made. It's 6:10 now, so I think we can take it away from here.
Hi everyone. I guess my dog is joining us as well for this conversation because I can hear her screaming. So I can't see the comments unfortunately, but welcome everyone and hooray! This is our first Tech Table Talk. It's the first one, and we have the beautiful Fumi Okubanjo all the way from United States of Lagos. And I saw Ekunwe all the way from United States of FCT. Two amazing women for this first one. And we'll be doing this every month, Fridays at 6 p.m. So after a long day at work or at your business, just come here, chill, relax, fun conversations. You can trust us, right? So today we're talking about a very important topic. But before I jump right in, welcome. And just leave, I can't see them, but just leave your name, where you're joining us from in the comments. And I'm sure Soe can help us at least read that out. Soe, can you help? So let's welcome them. It's their first time here and our first time here too. So it makes sense. So
Okay,
quickly, let's just welcome our guest.
yeah, so we have Hennessy Rose. I don't know where she says she's joining from. We have Toby Olaiton, we have Priska
Welcome.
Moses, we have
Welcome.
Regina Okoro, we have Evie Ogiwonyi. So we have just a few people, but these are the people who have joined so far, although they have not yet stated where they're joining from, but
All
Nigeria,
right.
Africa, the world.
United States of the connected world. So welcome. We're super glad to
Exactly.
have you and keep a date with us every Friday at 6 p.m. So today we're discussing a very important topic, why women's digital inclusion matter. Why does it matter? But before we just dive right into the conversation, I'll just give a brief about Tech Africa. Some of you know us, some of you don't. So I'll just help those who do not know about us, just give you an overview. So what we're doing at Tech Africa is simple. We are breaking the circle of poverty and enabling wealth creation for women and girls in rural areas across Africa, starting with Nigeria. And how are we doing that? It's also very simple, through digital and financial inclusion. And just to give you some perspective to that conversation is the fact that first, we ensure that we educate women and girls in these communities, how they can leverage technology for growth. So it's both digital and financial literacy training. So it's not just about how to use technology, it's if technology actually helps you make money, how do you also manage the resources? So it's both digital and financial literacy training for women and girls in rural African communities, starting with Nigeria. Once we do that, we also then bridge the access to device gap. So when they have this knowledge, we then ensure that they have the tools to connect to the internet. You agree with me? Without tools, they have head knowledge, but they cannot apply it, right? So we then ensure that we bridge that tool gap by giving them access to tools to connect to the internet, to learn, to earn, and to connect with the society at large. We also have a very brilliant idea, and it's currently ongoing, which is a local market. It's an e-commerce solution that connects women in rural communities to buyers outside their local communities. And why do we do this? To help them improve their income and reduce post-harvest waste. So you're seeing the chain. First is literacy, and then access to devices to connect, and then access to market so that they're able to sell more of their goods at the right prices. And once we do that, once they've been able to achieve increase in income to a certain degree, we then give them access to finance to grow and scale their businesses. So this way, they go through a holistic circle, and trust me, no one goes through this circle and come out the same way. No one. In fact, last year we had amazing results. We were able to help thousands of women increase their income by at least 50%. And we trained over 4,000 women. So this means these women can now use Facebook, WhatsApp, their mobile devices. They can then use online platforms. They can do video call like you and I. So of course, their lives are better. And we've also helped a lot of them get access to finance, access to smartphones to trade, learn, and earn. We also have different initiatives. A key one is the policy advisory, where we advocate for more inclusive policies that ensure that women and girls have the same opportunities in rural areas as those in urban areas do. And then we have the Digital Literacy for All initiative, which targets young people in public secondary schools. And the aim is to ensure that from now they are being positioned to learn and earn using technology. So that's us for now. You can visit the link on your screen, www.techafrica.org. So it's TECH, like Ghanaians do, HER, Africa, FRICA.org, and learn more about our work. So right on it, we have Fumi and Esohe, and I'll let Fumi tell us about what she does. You can see she's looking so beautiful. So Fumi, take the mic.
Oh my
tell
God,
us about what you do, and then over to Esohe before we get into the cocoa for tonight.
Thank you so much, Imade, and thank you, Sohed. Also, thank you to all the Tech Africa team members. You guys are doing fantastic work, and it's such a great honor for me to be here this evening. So my name is Fumi Okubanjo. I'm the founder of Radiant Futures, and our mission is actually just clearly stated. We are just in the name, you can tell it. We're trying to create futures that are beautiful. We're trying to create futures that are promising. And how are we doing that? We're focusing a lot on connecting underserved communities, women, your nano micro entrepreneurs, your petty traders. We're facilitating access to capital to drive the business. And so for us, what Tech Africa is doing is instrumental to driving financial inclusion, which is where we sit and which is where we look at. So for me, it's just so fantastic to be here. And I look forward to all the things we'll unveil, just to help everyone watching tonight. Thank you.
All right, amazing. Thank you for such sonorous voice. We hope to hear more of it tonight. Okay, Esther, over to you to tell us about yourself, what you do, quickly, so we can move on to the next section. Thank you.
All right. Yes, about the voice, for me, I mean, a member of our team has already commented about it, and that's what has even dragged people here. But But yes, my name is Esohe Kunwe. I'm the Director of Strategy and Operations at Tech Africa. I mean, I don't need to reintroduce Tech Africa. Imade has already done that, right? But I basically lead operations just so that we can, achieve as much impact as we are able to. So yeah, that's just brief about me. And I think we should get into the meat of the matter now.
And for record, she's my Oga. She's my boss. All right, so over to us now. So now it gets really deep. So please pay attention. Leave your comments in the comment section. Let's have a beautiful conversation, okay? So we're going to the topic digital inclusion, why it really matters. Why is it important, right? And most times when I have this conversation with people, when they hear digital exclusion in the first instance, they just assume that it's just lack of access, okay? So people assume that it's only when you don't have internet connection, you don't have a smartphone, so you are excluded. And then in their own books, when you have access to internet or smartphones, you're actually included. But the truth is, this conversation is actually multifaceted. The exclusion actually is, on the one hand, lack of access to internet or tools, but on the other hand, lack of meaningful use, which is how are people using what they have access to improve their lives and well-being. And most times you will see the access gap, but you also see the meaningful use gap. So people carry their phones and they don't even know what to do with it. People are on Facebook and just doing 0.1% of that. And then when you talk about inclusion as well, there are different pillars: infrastructure pillar, literacy pillar, access to tools pillar, and also the meaningful use pillar. So that being said, Fumi, from your perspective, from your work, from your idea, what does digital inclusion mean to you in the context of women's economic empowerment?
Thank you very much for that, Madi. And I'll just put it to you like this. It's similar to what you shared around how do you make the same opportunities available in urban centers accessible to women and girls in rural communities. So for me, I see digital inclusion within the context of women empowerment as a critical vehicle or a critical driver in ensuring that we can empower the girl child, we can give the women the skills, the capacity, opportunities, you name it, that they need to build a beautiful life, that they need to thrive, that they need to discover their financial freedom, and ultimately, actually, that they need to contribute significantly to the continent's prosperity. So you think of Africa and you think of a country like ours where women make up about half of our population. So when you're saying digital inclusion, we're basically saying, can we get everybody to some sort of equal playing ground where everyone has the opportunities, irrespective of your skills level, because you should have some level of skills to be able to contribute to the society. So for me, when I think of digital inclusion, I just think of that equal playing field where there's, like you said, it's not just access. I have the skills, I have the devices, I have the infrastructure, and the opportunities also do exist to help the women or to help the girl child thrive. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for that. So, sorry, over to you. I know that you've worked on this extensively. What does this mean for you as well? Let's hear your thoughts.
All right, so there's a saying that if you train a girl child, you train the entire community, and it just digital inclusion in terms of women empowerment just basically means allowing women to or giving women the opportunities, right? The tools that they need so that everybody else is empowered. Because at the end of the day, it's just not about the women being empowered, it's about every other person that is connected to that woman. So we're talking about, like you have already mentioned, we're talking about the access, we're talking about the meaningful use, because at the end of the day, it's not just about owning the tools. Do you know how to use the tools? And do you know how to use the tools in the way that Fumi has described to ensure that it's affecting your economic growth, is affecting every area of your life in a positive way. So at the end of the day, it's about really knowing how to use whatever access that you have, use whatever tools that you have to improve your entire life, to improve your entire well-being and that of everybody connected to you. So in a very, very simple phrase, I would say digital inclusion means giving these women that we're talking about this opportunity, this ladder sort of, to make sure that they are using everything that they have at their disposal, right, to create a better life for themselves.
Amazing, interesting. I like how both of you have touched on very key issues. But for me, back to you, you deal with women and finance, right? What does this also mean in the context of your work? How does this digital inclusion or exclusion affect financial inclusion?
Oh, that one is interesting. So I'll give you real life context, how critical it is. So, in the process of facilitating access to capital, be it through financial institutions, angel investors, donors, whoever is trying to make capital accessible, and not just in terms of, oh, take the cash, but even in terms of pricing. Is it affordable? Okay. The biggest challenge around cost of capital for rural communities is also cost of delivering financial services to them. So if you look at a commercial bank, the question the commercial bank always has to ask themselves is, how can we minimize cost as much as possible and optimize for profit? So just looking at that, the sense or decision-making principle is simply put your building where you're most likely going to serve a lot of people and make a lot of money. So we then say, oh, you don't have banks in rural communities. It's also because, like, Money goes to where economic activities exist. True economic activities that generate sufficient profits. That is where money goes to. Money goes to viable ventures. So for us, when you're dealing with rural community, and for example, we have clusters or communities where they are majorly agrarian. You know how difficult it is for women who are doing farming at small scale level. And you're saying, I can't convince a bank to come here. I can't convince an MFB to serve you. But we discovered that just the ability to use technology means that I don't need to keep going into the rural community to be able to serve her if she can just use WhatsApp. Because if she can just use WhatsApp, if she can just, for example, if she can fill Google form, if one person amongst her or somebody around her can fill a Google form, that means to fill the Google form, she needs an Android phone. It means that the phone is charged. It means that the phone is connected to the internet. And it means that she has credit, she has cash to buy the internet subscription on the phone itself. So for us, to facilitate access to capital at the scale at which we're trying to do it and at the speed at which we want to do it, we cannot do it without digital inclusion. We cannot do it without the woman's ability to use the device. We cannot do it without our ability to afford the device, which means we must consistently say who can make sure she has all of that. Because the moment she has it, I don't need the bank to come into our local community again. Just with that device on our hand is how fintech has been able to serve a lot of us. And then we're just saving, feeling good, like you can do anything just because of a phone. So that's how critical it is in our own journey. And that's how critical it is actually when you think of rural community development.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much. In fact, you remind me of a post that went out on LinkedIn today, and they were talking about what is most important. And my response to this was what you just said now. There has to be multi-approach. Because the more we have fintech, the more people are actually excluded. Because if you migrate to fintech alone, people don't have phones to connect to internet. They don't even know how to. So while you are actually getting some people on board, you're actually leaving many people behind. Because how would they use it? So this brings me to your question. You have worked with communities a lot, and you know the issues. So, what do you think are the biggest drivers of exclusion? Why are many women, especially those in rural areas, still largely excluded? From your experience now, not from Google research, from your experience, what have you seen are the major causes of this exclusion?
Okay, so the first thing that we usually encounter is because these women are, in rural areas, because they are low, there's a tag, they're low income women. So the first thing that you're encountering or we encounter is the financial constraint. So they are thinking, have I finished eating before I will now go and buy big phone or phone that they would not even necessarily call it phone that uses internet, but big phone, right? Have they finished eating? Have they finished taking care of their family? The money that they even get safe is just enough to feed, right? So they're thinking about all of that. So there's no money to now divert into purchasing a device. Sometimes even to as low as a small feature phone, the phones that we call Nokia phones. So there's a popular misconception in some spaces that I've been in where they feel like, oh, everybody has a phone, or low income women, oh, they know they have access to social media as well. And trust me when I say they do not. And some of them do not even have, these devices because maybe the ones they were using before went bad, and then all of a sudden they have too many responsibilities. Imagine a woman with 6 children, a couple of them very young, and then she has to think about a phone while she's thinking about feeding them. Of course, that would not be a priority. Another thing that we have noticed is social norms, cultural norms in different communities. So because of our work in the northern part of Nigeria, we've seen that most of the times, by the time we go into communities, first thing we need to do is to locate the leaders of the communities. In fact, everywhere we go, that's the approach we take. And we've seen that most of the time the leaders are the men. And if we don't go to meet the men and tell them, oh, this is what we want to do, this is how we want to do it, and all of that, we find that they will come and tell us, oh, you cannot do this thing here. I mean, at the end of the day, this thing is something that, is going to benefit them, but they do not see it as that in the first instance if we don't approach them. So imagine if we, the strangers who are just coming into the communities, we are trying to, help the women were trying to, do this for the women. And then the men who they live with, the men who are their husbands, their brothers, their uncles, their fathers, are the ones coming to tell us that, oh, you cannot do this here until you do so and so and so. So these are the things that they are facing. Like, okay, sometimes we see that when we even give a device to a woman, we find that it's the husband that would end up using it, just things like that. Another thing is limited content in local languages. So we see that, okay, some women who have devices, maybe future phones and everything, they can't even like really, really understand it enough to, use it meaningfully, right? They don't have the proper knowledge or grasp of the English language, because a lot of our devices are in English, right? You hardly find devices that you're able to switch to Yoruba or Hausa or Igbo or Ibibio, or just languages like that, like local languages. So there's really limited content in local languages that they can take advantage of. Then there is another there are gaps in education. I remember that we gave a woman in Enugu State a smart device, right? We gave her, we're like, okay, use it to improve your business. We taught them, like we always sit them down to teach them and everything. And then we went back for M&E about 2 weeks later, and the woman was like, yes, I just finished understanding how to properly make a phone call. So imagine that kind of woman. How long do you think it would take her to, get to the point where she's using WhatsApp or she's using Facebook for her business? It's going to take her a long time, because there is already a gap in the education of that particular woman. So these are just some of the challenges that we face: the financial, the social, the gap in education, the limited content in local languages.
Man, thank you so much for sharing. And I remember a conversation that we actually had recently, right? Some people can actually speak their language and hear it, but they cannot read their language. So even if you have the phones translated in their language, they can't still read it. So except we now have voice enabled functionalities that they can hear their language, it's still a challenge for us. And as Africans, we must begin to think creatively. We have people on this call who are change makers, who understand technology. How do we have AI that can read, that can speak to me in Yoruba and can hear what I say in Yoruba and reply me in Yoruba? Because if she cannot read Yoruba and you give her a text in Yoruba, she will still not understand it. But if we have an AI who I can just say hello for me and speak something, and the person tells me back in Yoruba, maybe we'll see more meaningful use. Which is why for our programs, we teach them how to use voice notes on WhatsApp, how to use Google search on voice. Do you understand? That way, go to Google, just click the phone and speak into the microphone, and then get some responses. So we're very also big on those voice enabled functions. And I feel like more African change makers need to begin to create local solutions to solve local problems. Because until then, we are just joking. Okay. So for me, back to you now. You also work with these communities. What have you experienced in terms of social norms? How have you seen this come to play in the South that you work in?
Okay, so first is I would declare that I love the Northern women. I think from what I've seen down here, it's not as bad as our Northern sisters and mothers and aunties actually have it. That's the truth. There's already a developmental gap when you think of just social economics across the country and then across the continent. There's already that wide developmental gap that exists. But the big ones here, however, is that you would find issues where women, for example, because they want to be valued by their husbands, they want to be loved and honored, cherished by their, say, in-laws and extended family, they tend to lean away from these things. Not because they don't value it. The other challenge they have is because the young folks that they see around, like you said, are not using the devices effectively. So for that woman who wants to use it, she's just going to say, ah, which means like it's not that thing that they're always playing on it. Those children are not doing anything. So already in her mind, because of how the technology is being used to where she is, she's already biased. She's already saying that thing, how on earth is this thing supposed to serve any real good? So I suspect, and from what I've seen, a lot of the way our women here are reacting to this is first, like Esori said, the literacy gap is already there, so they can't even read it. Two is how they see the devices being used. So for them, they're telling themselves, oh, I can't, it's not a useful tool. It's not as useful as you're presenting it to look. Then the other thing is a woman, as much as she's progressive and as much as she seems like she might be doing well in her business, she still doesn't really want to do better than her husband because she fears that if she does better than him, so if she has a device, her life seems to be progressing, and then her husband is, say, maybe an Agberu, and Agberu, like street boys, you know, at the bus stations, and she is even just a pepper seller, she'll begin to feel, oh, if I evolve beyond this man, I might lose my marriage. What would happen to my children? So for me, it's almost it's psychological. So she holds herself back, even though she can see that, oh, you're telling her that you can do it, you can use it this way, you can use it that way. So for us, the cultural or social norms that you see down here is coming first. It's been influenced a lot by the young people and how the young people are making use of the devices. I've seen communities, especially in the peri-urban areas, where maybe young people are using the devices for photography, for skits making. The way the women there respond is slightly different. While they still feel they're just playing, there's still that thing of, okay, maybe there's still a way I can use it if somebody could show me. So it's a function of how the environment is already interacting with technology and interacting with digital tools. It has strong implication for how the women here respond to it. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that insightful comment. We have young people on the call who I believe are also women. Do you feel that way? So is this a rural thing or is it a woman's thing? So we have people. So can you check the comments? Do you feel that way as a woman right now? Can I see your comments, please? Do you feel the need to not outshine your male partner? So we can even just see if it's just an urban rural thing or a Gen Z old Z thing or something. Are there comments? So
Okay, so we haven't gotten any comments on this particular question, but we had
okay,
comments while we were all
okay,
speaking.
okay.
So
So let's yeah.
okay, so
So
someone
let's get
mentioned.
some comments.
Yeah, someone mentioned about how AI that can serve as, audio Google Translate will solve a lot of problems. Another person talks about how, language barrier, it's a gap that needs to be filled locally. And then someone was saying true in response to what Fumi was saying about what's happening in rural areas, about how women are not wanting to go above their husband. So basically, these are just the comments that we have right now.
Well, nice to hear that. So please just leave your comment if you with all your Gen Z or millennial-ish behavior feel that way as well. Let's just know if it's just a rural urban thing. Okay. So I've been hearing a lot of men, husbands, partners. So now this is for you and I'll come to Fumi as well. What do you think men can do to actually foster inclusion? What do you think boys can do, fathers, husbands can do to ensure that more women become more included?
Okay, the first thing is seeing as we see that there is also, besides, some rural urban digital gap, there is also a digital gap between the genders, right? And you would find that some of these men, they have the smart devices, they read news on these smart devices. I believe that it's something that they can call their wives or call their sisters, brother with sister, husband with wife. They can decide, oh, sit down, make I teach you this thing. If they don't, or you speak your language, whatever the case may be, really. But seeing as you have that knowledge, it will be good for them to, pass that knowledge or pass that skill across, thinking that, oh, she will not understand, or oh, she doesn't need it. It's not going to help with the inclusion. So as men, as the male counterparts of these women, it's good that you involve the women. There's no male thing here, woman thing here. I think we are currently in a world that has moved beyond it's a man's role and a woman's role. We see a lot of things being interchangeable and all of that. So this is one way I believe can promote digital inclusion. Another thing is, when we're talking about digital inclusion, like I said, from our experiences, a lot of times, or rather sometimes, men can be barriers to women's digital inclusion. So we need to appeal to the men to actually encourage whatever help that comes to the women, whatever empowerment programs, whatever trainings. They should be the one. It wouldn't be a bad thing if a husband is coming back from work one day and he sees something that is for women and coming home to tell his wife and his daughters, I saw this thing. Oh yeah, you guys should go. Just all of those things. Be the one to encourage them. Don't be the barrier. Be the one to encourage them. Be the one to even push themselves, because there's sometimes some women will feel, oh, I beg, this thing is not something I can learn, or it's not something that I want to do or whatever. But if it's the man who is telling them, just like Fumi was saying about how they do not want to go above their husbands, but if it's their husband that is actually pushing them to, go for more, do this, do that, you would find that the women would actually be, going for more, would actually be doing more, and just trying as much as possible to enlighten themselves, to educate themselves. So I think these are just so another thing could be educational support. So for the girl child, because it doesn't just start from the women, right? The women were once girl children. So for the girl child, how do you support her in inquisitiveness, right? How do you support that? Oh, she's very, adept, or she's very, very curious about technology, the TV in the home, or your own phone. She's always picking your own phone and all of that. Do you just, shun them or turn them down? So just little things like this, I believe, would be able to push digital inclusion for women from the angle of the men.
Oh, thank you for sharing. So, for me, before I come to you, something crossed my mind, and I'd like to share that as well. So, I have a tailor, and she sews really well. And I keep asking her, I want to send you the styles. And she says, send to my husband's phone. And this woman earns a lot. So one day I asked her, why your husband's phone? Like, can't you have your own phone? She said, no, it doesn't want me to use phone. And I jokingly said, is he afraid of men? He said, yes. So he thinks I'll be chatting with men on WhatsApp. So apparently there were underlying issues of trust. If I give her the phone, she starts using WhatsApp and Instagram, and she starts acting like the girls I see on Instagram or WhatsApp. So the man was already feeling afraid that if I give her a phone, my marriage is broken. She's going to cheat. She's going to leave me. So it took us 2 months to take him through a conversation, advise the woman, you have to behave differently and all of that, before he actually gave her a phone. So for me, from this background, I would like to twist your question a bit. One, what can men do? And also, what can women do to earn the trust of men, such that we minimize all of these insecurities or things that come to play in this regard?
Oh, that's a tough one, to be frank, because you're basically asking us to do some sort of semi-marriage counseling. Yeah, that's the truth. It's tough, but what I know is women need to play up efforts that they can be trusted. That's just it. And it means that we can't rely on just that lady. We can't rely on just your tailor. We have to rely on the stories every woman tells. The life every woman lives has implication for how a man will perceive his wife. So what he's saying, like we said, how the device is being. So what he's saying is all sorts of trash online. That's all he's seeing. Those are the volume of content that are coming to him online. So it's messing up with his mind as to who his wife could be. Actually, so I have some friends who are guys who watch all sorts of videos about cheating girls and all of that. And I always have to tell, I say, see, if you fill your mind, so for men, if you fill your mind with all the social trash going on, you will perceive your wife, your sisters, your daughters as such. That's the truth. So men have to realize that what you're seeing online is not the complete representation of who women are. It's just a tiny fraction of us that behave that way. And the truth too is, if the wife hasn't done anything obvious to trigger all these red flags and all these alerts, give her space for expression. I just always tell, like I tell my pastors and I tell the women there, and I actually also always plead with the older elderly women because they can come in to intermediate here. Sometimes I know our culture is very big on age and respect. So the moment an elderly woman is saying, Baba Wale, allow this woman. If you see anything in her that you don't like, just call me. So some sort of intermediation, especially for the older women in communities, can actually make this possible. But it also puts a burden on us, Imade. It means that as we go out to the field, as you do the interaction, we also need to prepare the elderly women's mind for this kind of role in the conversation. Because if we don't, it's difficult to convince most men because they're seeing that, they're hearing it, they're feeding off it, they will keep believing on it. So the option is the cuts off such such view. Just remove it from their playlist. Two is give your wife a bit of room because if she's earning better, women put 90 to 95% of their income. Research has shown it. They channel back 90 to 95% of their own income back in the home. It actually makes the man easier, is what I tell some of the men. It will help you. Just give us small space. Just try. If after you tried, you now saw something you didn't like, you see, that's where the elderly women have to step in to help. So the home dynamics is a bit tricky. We just need we need interventions from people that families respect. So that usually be our religious leaders, our traditional leaders, the elderly in the communities. They are the ones that make this kind of conversation easy. But my key word to men is give your woman space for expression. Whatever she's doing, fundamentally, 90-95% of that money she will make will come back. Even if she never gives you, she will spend it on the children. A responsible woman will do that. She will take care of feeding in the house. She might not choose to pay rent. She might not be able to, but she will take up the burden that most men carry financially for the home. So that's my position on that.
All right, thank you so much for sharing. And this also portrays why we carry our men along. So all our programs, we carry the men along, we carry the leaders along in the community, the church leaders, the community leaders, because it's actually very important. Okay. And this other question is for all of us. So if you are listening to me, you can put in your response in the comments, and the best response gets a prize, right? And I'll announce at the end of the session. So this question is, what can government do? What can NGOs do? And what can the private sector do? So I'll go to Esohe and then to Fumi, and then each person leave your response in the comments. We're going to take the best responses. We're going to create a post on it. We're going to tag you. We're going to add your response to our next newsletter. And then there's a special prize, which I will say at the end for the best response. So I saw here, what can one, government do? Number two, what can NGOs, non-governmental organizations do? And what can the private sector do to ensure that more women, especially those in rural communities, are more included in the digital space?
So
I saw her, and then please leave your comments. We'll take them. Yeah.
So the first thing I think that government needs to have an ear for organizations or individuals who come to them for advocacy, who advocates to them on behalf of these women. I think they need to have an ear for that. right? That's the first thing. Another thing I know that would help is infrastructural development. Let's see how we can build some infrastructures in some communities or support organizations or companies that could do that, right? So you would find that in communities, in some communities, right, there is no network, or there is just one like prevailing network. I mean, we've all traveled, we've all gone on road trips, and you see that, oh, if you're using MTN, then it shows no service when you're passing a particular community, right? So if government could possibly partner with infrastructure companies, or collaborate with them sort of, and just make sure that we're working together to ensure that the necessary tools are available. That's another thing. What we also need to do is for inclusive education, right? So we already know that this is for the government. So for inclusive education, we're talking about promoting girls' education in, STEM courses. STEM, we're talking about science, we're talking about technology, we're talking about engineering, we're talking about maths. If they have this knowledge first, then okay, we can have NGOs coming with tools, or NGOs coming with further support. But if it's a government, if it starts with a government initiative, it's something that everybody, we can all put our hands to basically work on, to basically support, right? Another thing is for NGOs, we could have tailored solutions like what Tech Africa is currently doing. Of course, I would talk about our work, right? But yes, NGOs can have more tailored support. I know that there are a couple of digital literacy programs out there, but are they really down to the basic level? That's the first question. Because when people are thinking about digital literacy, they're thinking about the big tech and all of that. But for these women, that's not even digital literacy for them. For the girl child in a rural community, that's not digital literacy for her, right? Digital literacy is as simple as, back then when we were learning, we used to learn what is a computer. So sometimes digital literacy might be about saying what is a smartphone, right? And then telling them, oh, this is how to, use the functions. In fact, this one does not have, this is a type of phone that does not have buttons, right? So yes, there are digital literacy courses, but we need more tailored programs for this particular set of audience, right? Another thing that we need to think about for what's it called, for NGOs, is that yes, you do those programs, which is why this is something that is very core for us, that's very key for us at Tech Africa. Monitoring and evaluation. Yes, you have done your digital literacy program, you've done your financial literacy program, but do you check the effects? Do you measure the effects on the women that you have done it, like you have trained? After a certain period of time, what do you do? How do you go back? Because for these women, some of the times, they have organizations coming to their community, but there is no constant follow-up, there is no sustainability plan. It's just come in, do something and go, which is why we value sustainability in Tech Africa, and which is why our courses, our digital and financial literacy course, is currently being turned into a digital versions that are put in the devices that are provided for these women, so that even when we are not there, they're still able to keep up, they're still able to learn, they're still able to practice. So like I said, for NGOs, we really need to focus on tailored solutions, not just broad spectrum. There is a it's not a one size fits all situation. A community, we've actually been to like various communities, you would see that one community's challenge when it comes to digital literacy might be different from another communities. You might find that in some communities, some of them are more educated, right? So you're not thinking about local content or content in local languages. You're thinking more of meaningful use. So just basically making sure that there are tailored solutions for each of these programs that we do.
All right, thank you for sharing that insight. Fumi, over to you. What can so has spoken about government and NGOs. So maybe just take it up from what can the private sector do? You've played in that space for a long time. You're still in that space to a large extent. What can the private sector do in this regard?
Okay. The simple thing Well, looks simple. The simple thing I think we can do within the private sector is better market segmentation. So if we can accept the fact that the middle class, and we say the middle class is thinning out, anyways, the elite, the dying middle class that we're trying to keep alive, and the low income earners, rural dwellers, if we thought of product development around the segment, and we thought of pricing based on the product, based on the market segment spending or purchasing power, we can create a lot of change. So just think of, I know a lot of the big telcos have tried to do. That's why today you can buy your 1 gig, and technically for the telco is saying you're paying 500 naira. Okay, but we know that the woman in Nasarawa, that 500 naira is still a big deal to her. Is there a way we can get ourselves as private sector players to better segment and to improve pricing? For me, where I see it, if I observe some of service providers, they have enough data about the market that you can do price differentiation. But today, what you will see, for example, is either you're a youth, or there's just this sort of proud approach to product development and pricing, and all in the name of, oh, we still segment it. Even when you think of how technological tools are being developed, you would hear of technological tools that in quotes is supposed to serve rural communities, but by the time you dig deeper, even just from a pricing perspective, it's not possible for it to serve, it's not possible for it to work. So my key word to private sector players would be, let's do better with market segmentation, and let's do better with matching price to what that segment can truly afford, for the kind of value they place on it, or for the kind of value we're trying to create for them. I think if we do that a lot more, we'll see some traction. Now, we might not make a lot of profits, traction, and my position on all of this, because I spend a lot of time with impact investment, right, is that today it might look to us economically enough profit. An improved market, a more sophisticated consumer base means that corporates can actually earn more in the long run. That's the fact. If we can just take that short-term profit, just lose some money now to gain it later, we can definitely do that. So beautiful, well thought through market segmentation with the intention of also creating value and impact for bottom of the pyramid can definitely help. I think that's something private sectors can do.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just to summarize all you've said for our people, what you're literally saying in African parlance would be cut the cloth according to the pocket of the person.
Not cut it,
right? So don't tell us that you're creating a digital solution for villagers, and then the pricing is off. Or you're creating a course and you're speaking fluent English, and they are wondering how. We've gone to some areas, they don't even understand Pidgin. It has to be their indigenous language. And then you see people saying they've written a book to help rural children get educated. And you look at the book and you're wondering, how would they even read it? Even the public schools in the cities, let me not just break the table, we know what happens there. So imagine the public schools in the villages. And then you bring a book that's all big with AI, ChatGPT English, bogus language, and you are saying you're trying to help them. So what I'm hearing from you is just more local content, intentionality, and sincerity of purpose.
Yes.
Like serve who you say you're going to serve and serve them well. Okay, so do we have any comments in the comment section on this matter? What can government do? What can NGOs do? And what can private sector do? Because we're over to the last question now. Any comments?
I just want to confirm if you can see the comment on the screen.
I can see Okoro Regina. She says, I have a mortgage. No, yeah, I've seen that one, which is fantastic.
Okay,
Regina says a mentality issue, which is true. So Regina is touching on the fact that we need to educate more. Mindset re-engineering, which is a big deal. It takes a while. And just to announce, we'll soon launch our book. And Fumi, you add to that book your thoughts on what works for communities in Nigeria.
Mm.
And part of that is to let you know that it is hard to achieve impact. Takes a while and
Yes.
takes a lot of money. So if
Yes.
you're coming to work in the rural space,
Yeah.
praise up.
Mm.
To achieve the impact that we want to actually see, it takes a while and it takes lots of money. So, can you help us read what Priska Moses had just said? And let's see.
Okay. Okay, so she said the government needs to make provision for digital awareness, starting from the primary school in in rural communities. Teach and train them, collaborate with NGOs and private organizations. Digital literacy courses should be a must for the young girl child, so they can take the necessary precautions and steps before venturing into businesses.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any more comments? This is so apt.
On this topic, no.
Okay. So just to
Yeah,
add,
it has
Nigeria
it.
has the digital economy strategy and policy, right? So we have the digital economy policy and strategy for Nigeria, which has all these 7 pillars: literacy, infrastructure, access. And the ministry in charge is doing such a fantastic job. We just hope that as they keep expounding on that, they reach more rural communities. We've seen where people are saying, oh, we want to do online training for rural women. And we're like, how now? From where to where? Where would they even watch the training? Do they have the mobile phones? Like, is there even lights to charge the phone? Have they bought data? Will they even sit down to watch it for 3 hours? Do you understand? So while the government is doing a lot of work, we hope to see more inclusive, more grassroots solutions that will target those in rural areas. So we also see Oko Regina. Let's see your comments. So please read.
So she says to enhance female inclusivity in digital literacy, the government can implement educational programs and scholarships and support STEM initiatives for girls and women. Private sector can implement diversity and inclusion policies, provide mentorship programs, create a supportive work environment for women in technology, offer tailored training and development opportunities. NGOs can initiate community based programs and workshops, provide resources to empower women and girls in technology.
Fantastic. So there's another response here.
Yes, so Textile Sports says, I believe all three sectors need to come together to promote even development. What's accessible in Abuja should be accessible in Nasarawa. The gap between the rural and urban communities is large, so providing solutions, policies, and strategies to improve the quality of life across the country, from as little as even educational privileges, will go a long way.
Thank you so much for sharing. And these comments are actually amazing. So we'll leave our email address on the comment section. So please, can you leave our email in the comment section, please? Email us with your account details. For those who commented, they will get a token for recharge card. So email us your account details or your mobile phone number. You will get a recharge card, data, or the money in your account that we have marked for this. So thank you so much for sharing. Now the final question, and this is where we go back, bish bish. The final question to Fumi and Esohe. And I want you to really think about this deeply. Okay, when you think about digital inclusion and the future, what does that look like for you? Feel free to close your eyes and dream. When you think about digital inclusion and the future, what does that look like for you? And then after you answer that, Eswe will do the same. And then if you have your comments as well, please leave them in the comment section. Thank you. Please, let's add some drama to this thing now. The energy.
Oh my God.
And just like, make it so romantic to a large extent. Come on.
So that you guys,
Oh, God.
I thought about it a lot, actually. I
Mhm.
thought about it. I just imagine a world where we can literally do almost anything. I always tell people, I think we're entering a time where, for example, knowledge is no longer luxury. And for that to remain or become true, digital is everything. Think of what we are able to do with AI today at work. Literally, tasks that used to take me 3 hours to process. The power of AI sometimes I just sit down, give correct prompts, you're done. And I just imagine that kind of tool, an even greater tool, in the hands of millions of women and girls who then have the right, the correct literacy to do that. I just see a world where flying cars virtually become possible. Like in your village, they can create it. The children in your village do not sit there, just make it. Because the world will become more central than it is today. The world is still very divided. There is still a difference between the haves and the have not. And technology even powers that division because of the way we're running it. But a world where everyone sees a mobile phone as a basic thing. Like he almost begins to feel like, I have clothes, I have it. And then I'm using it in a way that is enhancing my innate abilities and is almost turning people to superpowers. Like you become your own superwoman and you can do anything. You can create, you can generate income for yourself. You're no longer afraid of issues around access to markets because you know that you can sit in your home because you have something in your hands that you know how to utilize. The same, just think of how a lot of youth graduate from university today and just take technology and use it to transform their lives. Now imagine if that was possible for everybody. Just imagine that means we're talking about a Nigeria and Africa where unemployment is near zero. Just because we found a way and we've been given a tool, we've been given knowledge, and we've been given opportunities at a level that has never been seen before. So for me, I just see it like we want to create prosperity is a critical pillar to achieving it because then it connects us greater than we can imagine and it opens us up to enormous volume of trade transactions, financing, moving, and things can happen that way. So we can continue this talk. We can.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what does the future look like for you? What do you see? And feel free to add some spice to, to
See,
that future.
this spice, I will go and bring it from the kitchen because okay,
What do
so
you
when
see?
I think about, digital inclusion in the future, I do not imagine, words like gaps, words like divide being included in that statement. That's just the first thing. Words like low income women or low income anybody really, because with the power of technology in our hands, as Fumi has said, there our possibilities are limitless. And if everybody understands that your possibilities are limitless, I mean, the sky is our starting point, as we usually say. So basically, when I think about digital inclusion in the future, I think about connectivity. So the world becomes a digital global village. So this global village that we're talking about, we're always talking about, the world becomes a digital global village where everyone is connected. There is nobody, we're not talking about left behind. We're not talking about exclusion. We're not talking about any of those things. Another thing I see in the future is no divide when it comes to income levels. There is no middle class, there is no lower class, there is no, because all of these opportunities, like Fumi has said, all of this knowledge, all of these tools are now in your hands, and it's to make do with it what you can, right, and what you're able to. So if we have these things, we will not be there. The lack mentality, the whole mentality about my wife will prosper more than I mean, all of those mindsets would be dead. When they say dead that thing, it would just be dead, right? Everybody is prospering, everybody is at their best, everybody is, just flying high, basically. I don't know if you can see it, but just
I
flying
can
high.
see.
Everybody is just at doing, like, at their optimum level. They're operating at the, it's just like when you get a robot, what's it called, a robot to clean your house. There are robots now that clean houses, and you're now able to better focus on your work or whatever it is,
Yeah.
something else. Everybody is beginning to operate in their own sectors, in their own communities, in their own houses at the best possible level possible? Like, how many times can I use the word
Amazing. Don't worry,
possible?
I
Not
see the future.
possible.
I see, like I tap in that into that future, and I can really see that future as well. Any comments for us
Yeah.
before we call it a day? Any more comments? So while we're waiting for comment, find out for me, final words from you. Before you do that, just to announce that our next program next month will be purely in Pidgin. I won't tell you the topic, but it will be a full-blown Pidgin English show. So get ready. We're going to have Pidgin English conversation that we're just going to really enjoy. Okay, because we're talking about digital inclusion and we're talking about local content. It's high time that we have Pidgin English in the first instance in that conversation. So let's read what Okoro has for us.
So she says, when I close my eyes, I see digital inclusion as a wonder that will happen to the world at large. Though I am still wondering if it is really possible. Before I even continue that statement, I am here to tell you it is possible. Whatever it is you wrote after that, it is possible. But I will continue. Though I am still wondering if it is really possible for everyone to be digitally literate because we have a lot of issues acting as a barrier. That's where my question comes in. Is it really possible that everyone would definitely be carried along in this digital space? I personally do not think so. Are you going to force digital knowledge on those who are not receptive?
All right, so Regina, hold that thought. Our next show will be Pidgin English, where we'll have this conversation. Is it really possible to achieve digital inclusion across the board? So our next show with that topic, strictly Pidgin English. So get ready and come and join us. So the next one.
So Priska says, from my own perspective, I'm seeing the future of inclusion as creating information, finding information, sharing information, digitalizing information, closing the digital gender equality with information. Amazing.
All right, so thank you very much. Flying cast is my picture too. Thank you, Ivy. You know, by the way, Ivy is from Benin, so that makes sense. When a Benin
Ah,
girl says flying cars,
wait,
if you know, you know.
wait.
If you know, you know.
Oh
For the
my
Benin
God.
girls, they're still flying cars. We see, we understand, we feel you. We feel you. So final
Oh
words
my
from our
God.
guest, Fumi. Let's hear it. Take it from me. What are your final thoughts for us tonight?
What's my final thought? So while each of us, for example, Tech Africa, you have things you are trying to do. It takes a lot of hands on deck to create this future we're talking about, Regina. It's going to take a good number of us committing to drive this. The possibilities exist, but it's the work that has to be done, the advocacy, the kind of innovation and creativity we need to birth on the continent is the work required of us. Imagine if a lot of these tools that we're clamoring for, imagine if even if 60% of the mobile devices that are in our hands today were produced locally on the continent. I'm not even saying Nigeria because I'm thinking we're already talking about intercontinental trade on the continent. So that's not even an issue. You just imagine if in Uganda, somewhere in Kenya, someone was making a lot of these devices, we can achieve this. The other thing is, as long as digital divide exists, it just reminds us that poverty is right in our face and we cannot run away from it. So if we even think of our children as mothers, you think of your nieces and nephews and you say, what kind of future do you want them to live in? We have to ask ourselves, do we want a future where some of us have access to knowledge, some of us have access to opportunities, and there are a bunch that don't? Just think of NSAS, the experience in Lagos. It's a simple example of when you are sitting on a ticking time bomb. That's just what it is. So when we're talking about digital inclusion, we need to take a communal approach to it. We need to take a thinking of how can I support initiatives like yours, Tech Africa doing this? How can I serve the communities better? Do I live in neighborhoods where there are a lot of young kids that are not doing anything? How can I serve them? How can I serve the girls? Is there a pepper seller in the market that I'm always buying something from? And I've never said, Mama, this thing, can't you just put it on Okada? You just share me pictures on WhatsApp. And Mama will say, I don't. I say, Mama, let me show you. It's little efforts like that that can help us achieve our goal. It's little efforts like that from my perspective, as someone driving social impact fund, that makes it easy. It makes my world easier because now I can tell stories and say, oh, there are true economic activities going there. Because why? Somebody's driving financial inclusion there. Oh, I can say, oh, don't worry, that woman, she can use voice notes. You will just send it. You will get your produce. So we have to take a mentality of Africa can build itself. And this is one of the ways we can. If we all get busy and give it our best shot, no matter how little you think you can, we can create that world we're imagining, and we have to do it. There's no savior coming from anywhere. Africans have to build Africa. That's the truth. Otherwise, this divide will remain. We have to solve our own problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much. How can we reach you? Your email address, your social media profiles, how can we reach you? How can we connect with you? Those who are listening now afterwards.
Okay, so I'll be very happy to connect with everyone. My LinkedIn URL, my LinkedIn link is stated here, and maybe someone on the Tech Africa team will just help me also drop it in the chat room. I'll be very happy to connect. Let's talk. Let's get this movement going. There's so much work to do. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. So here, rounding up, we have just 4 minutes, your final words, and there's also a comment from TechSap Spot. So yes, let's hear your final words.
Okay, so basically what I really have to say is just an addition to what Fumi has already said. Digital inclusion, it starts with us, really. It starts with something as little as, do you have a neighbor who there is a mindset issue with the husband, who you can intervene in that kind of thing? Do you have an old phone that you no longer use? I mean, we change our phones every day. And you see that this woman that is selling in your neighborhood, she can really, really get more reach and access to market if she uses that device, right? It's just really as little things like this that would really help. So the words are, digital inclusion starts with you. We're not going to wait for anybody. Whatever world that we imagine, whatever future that we imagine, just like Fumi has said, it is possible, and it's going to start with you. It doesn't start with anybody else. It begins with you. So that's it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Comments from the comment section. Can you help us read, please?
Okay, so this person says, I see a future where everyone has access to what they need so easily, from education to medication and wealth. And Priska said the future is female. They never see us coming.
In fact, we actually do a t-shirt. As in, this is actually a slide. Please take note. They never see us coming. Amazing stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Stuff. Any more comments? It's been such an amazing time.
Good.
I enjoyed myself. I hope you did enjoy yourself as well. For the first one, you guys did amazing. Thank you to the team that put this together. Victoria, Favor, the entire team. Thank you to our volunteers who worked day and night to get this sorted. Thank you to Fumi, who graced us with that time. Thank you to our powerhouse, I saw her, my boss, and my leader, for being available after such a long day. Thank you to everyone. There's also our consultant, Coach Toby. If you're on this call, thank you so much. He put in so much work. He's the he for she. Please leave his details on how we can connect with him. He's been amazing from the very beginning. Thank you so much. To all those who left their comments, thank you. To those who want prizes, please send your details to our email. Please leave the email at info@techafrica.org to get your prizes. And thank you so much. Like I said, next month is an all pidgin show. And just one topic: is this really possible? Can we truly achieve digital inclusion? So until next time, thank you for joining, and thank you for riding this journey with me. Peace out. Thank you so much. Bye. Do something fun now, you guys.
I just said
Bye,
I'm
everyone.
like,
It's that table talk now. More conversations, man. All right. Thank you so much. We enjoyed your presence. We enjoyed your company. Let's do
Thank
this
you.
same time, same station, same channel next month. See you again next month. Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.
Bye.
All right, bye everyone. Bye.